After talking about India in general, we will now move on to the environmental problems that India has been facing. And the first problem that we will discuss will be air pollution. Basically, in India, there are two major sources currently for air pollution, which are PM2.5 and PM10. The first PM2.5 comes from diesel, petrol, and CNG, but also from open waste burning pollution, biomass burning pollution, and coal combustion. The second type, that is the PM10, comes mainly from mechanical processes like dust resuspension. There are basically two types of air pollutants, which are outdoor and indoor. The outdoor air pollutants include the fossil fuel, carbon particles and metallic particles in atmosphere from industrial and automobile emissions, toxic gases, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and ozone, tobacco, etc. The indoor air pollutants include toxic gases produced from kitchen fuels, building materials, tobacco smoke, etc. So we can have a look at the picture, which shows moisture, VOCs and chemicals, smoking, dust, and pet dandor. So this is a chart of growth of PM2.5 levels and the results of 4 different countries. Between China, the US, and the European Union, the PM2.5 levels from 2010 to 2015 have been falling steadily, whereas in India they have been increasing. The amount of deaths per day in each country is proportional to the amount of PM2.5 levels released when population is taken into account. The difference in PM2.5 levels could be attributed to high level of government involvement as compared to low level of government involvement in India. We will now move on to the sources which lead to air pollution in India, and the very first source that we will be talking about will be fuel wood and biomass burning. This is the primary reason for near permanent haze and smoke which we observe about the urban and rural areas. Fuel wood and biomass cakes are used for general cooking and heating purposes, mostly in the rural areas because we have a problem of electricity there. And the image you see here is called cook stove or a chula. So currently 100 million households use stoves 2 to 3 times a day. The burning of cow dung, agricultural waste, and firewood like logs and twigs is common and releases high levels of PM10, NOx, SOx, carbon monoxide, etc. This form of burning releases around 165 million tons of combustion products into India's indoor and outdoor air every year. According to WHO, 300,000 to 400,000 people die of indoor air pollution and carbon monoxide poisoning every year due to this type of burning. I would also like to say that India is the world's largest consumer of fuel wood, agricultural waste, and biomass for energy purposes. India burns 10-fold more oil every year than the US. The fuel wood quality in India is different than that of the dry fuel wood which we use in the US. Indian stoves are less efficient, thereby leading to more smoke and more air pollutants per kg equivalent of the fuel wood burnt. This is very nicely tackled by Indian government in a way that the Indian government is providing incentive and more efficient cook stoves to the people in rural areas. Also, they are increasing the electricity reach to the rural areas, which has given an interesting result, and which is around 30 to 65% of emissions have been reduced because of that. Okay, the next source is fuel adulteration. So some of the Indian taxis and auto rickshaws, they run on the adulterated fuel blends. Adulteration of gasoline and diesel with lower price fuels is common not only in India but in also other developing nations. The primary reason for this is financial incentives arising from differential taxes. So in India, the gasoline is higher taxed than diesel, and in turn diesel is higher taxed than kerosene, which is meant as a cooking fuel. So as the fuel price rises, the public transport driver cuts cost by mixing cheaper hydrocarbons with highly taxed hydrocarbons. The blending is as much as 20 to 30% of the total fuel. So for a low waste driver, the adulteration can yield short-term savings which are significant over the month. This problem is also being tackled by the government by giving incentives. We will now talk about traffic congestion as another issue. This is severe in Indian cities and towns and can be caused by increase in number of vehicles per kilometer of available road, lack of proper infrastructure, proper expressway networks, traffic accidents, too many cars on the roads, etc. So at low speeds, vehicles burn fuel inefficiently, causing more pollution per trip. The next slide is on industries. So India is the third largest emitter of carbon dioxide after China and US. About 65% of India's carbon dioxide emissions in 2009 was from heating, domestic uses and power sector. India's coal-fired, oil-fired and natural gas-fired thermal power plants are inefficient and offer significant potential for carbon dioxide emission reduction through better technology. Compared to the average emissions from coal-fired, oil-fired and natural gas-fired thermal power plants in European Union countries, India's thermal power plants emit 50 to 120% more CO2 per kilowatt hour produced. This is significantly due to inefficient thermal power plants installed in India prior to its economic liberalization in the 1990s. So this shows the current situation, and a recent study states that air pollution in India reduces lifespan of over 660 million people by 3 years. 77% of the country's urban areas are worse than the norms prescribed under the air quality standards. The NAAQS established by the Indian Pollution Control Board states that PM2.5 should be around 60 microgram per meter cube, which is different from the US, which says around 12 microgram per meter cube. And the current PM2.5 readings are as follows, where Mumbai tops Pune and Pune tops Delhi. And this is a graph which shows an exponential rise in the PM10 levels. We have also a very recent image of the last 48 hours of PM2.5 recorded in New Delhi, and which is around 291, which is very unhealthy. So it's still, the air quality is bad, but governments are taking initiatives to make it better. So out of the most polluted cities in the world, we have Delhi, Patna, Gwalior, Raipur from India, which have noted PM2.5 levels to be 153, 149, 144 and 134 respectively. The PM10 levels across India, the annual average, which shows again Delhi, Ghaziabad, Allahabad, Jharia, Alwar, Patna and Dehradun to be 268, 258, 250, 228, 227, 200 and 186 respectively. Now, what is government doing? Okay. So, first of all, this is a transparent data. So, it should have a transparent data by improving the National Ambient Air Quality Index monitoring systems, providing access to data to the public on a real-time basis for the whole country, a health advisory which would enable the public to take decisions to protect their health and environment. The short-term measures include issuing red alerts and health advisory during bad air days, shutting down schools, taking polluting vehicles odd even off the roads. I'm going to talk about the odd even polluting vehicle rule in the future slides. Shutting down power plants and industries, introducing electrostatic precipitators this has been added to chimneys of industries, and use of respiratory masks among the traffic cops. So this is an image showing a traffic cop wearing a respiratory mask because he has to stand all the time on the road among the vehicles going passing by him. Another image is of the people, citizens taking an initiative towards a greener India by introducing bike system. So this is the odd even formula which was implemented in Delhi and which has shown really good results. So they say that after implementing this, Delhi breathes a bit again, and there's lower traffic volume, and experts say it helped in lowering down the PM 2.5 levels in the early hours. And again, a test was done to see what other impacts did it have, and it led to 30% rise in the demand for autos and taxis, which means people were moving towards public transport. So this was basically the odd-even formula, wherein you had to one day only odd number of cars, the number plates having odd numbers had to go, and the other day the even number of cars had to go, and this led to a good significant result. The long-term measures include improving public transport, limiting the number of polluting vehicles on the road, introducing less pollution fuel, which was called Bharat 6, strict emission regulations and improved efficiency for thermal power plants and industries, moving from diesel generators to rooftop solar, increased use of clean renewable energy, electric vehicles, removing dust from roads, regulating construction activities, stopping biomass burning, etc. So this is all I had to talk about for air pollution in India. The next topic that we have is water pollution.